I'm Dr. Esha Singh, naturopathic physician here in Vancouver, BC. Today, I'll be talking to you about the Mediterranean diet. So the Mediterranean diet is perhaps one of the most well-recognized and most recommended diets in the world. In fact, this year it received the best overall diet distinction from the US News and World Report, and this is distinction it got 3 years in a row. Perhaps one of the reasons why this diet is so well received is because it's quite intuitive. It's based off of plants, so a lot of fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds, beans and legumes, with the addition of small amounts of dairy and poultry and fish. There's no actual food groups that are removed from the diet, and there is a strong emphasis on lifestyle. So how much you're moving, how much you're socializing, and yes, it encourages the occasional glass of wine.
The Mediterranean diet is based off of the traditional diets of the countries in the Mediterranean basin, namely Crete, Greece, southern Italy, and Spain. The origin of the Mediterranean diet is not very clear, but there is evidence of a similar eating style in the Middle Ages in the ancient Roman tradition. The basis of the diet was bread, wine, and oil supplemented with some sheep cheese and, depending on wealth status, fish. Later, the influences of Germanic nomads, Muslims from the Arab world, and discoveries from the Americas introduced a variety of vegetables and cereals, livestock, and spices, which brought upon an evolution of the diet. The Mediterranean diet entered the world stage in the 1950s when the American physiologist Ancel Keys from the University of Minnesota School of Power pointed out the correlation between cardiovascular disease and diet. He noticed that individuals living in the Mediterranean tended to be living longer lives with less incidences of chronic diseases compared to their counterparts in America, prompting him to start the 7-country study. This study documented the relationship between nutrition, lifestyle, and cardiovascular disease between different countries. His findings led him to the conclusion that a diet based on the Mediterranean diet had a low rate of cholesterol in the blood and a smaller risk of developing coronary heart disease. He attributed this to their plentiful use of olive oil, bread, pasta, and vegetables, accompanied by herbs, garlic, red onions, and small amounts of meat. Since Ancel Keys, the global interest in the association between dietary habits and chronic disease, and particularly the health benefits of the Mediterranean diet, increased, prompting many subsequent studies. Before looking at the benefits, it is important to understand what the diet consists of. Since the traditional diet is based off of the eating style of several cultural groups within the Mediterranean basin, we will be using the Mediterranean Diet Pyramid created by Old Ways in partnership with the World Health Organization and the Harvard School of Public Health. What makes the Mediterranean diet different from most eating plans is that at the base of the pyramid is lifestyle. Healthy lifestyle choices such as exercise, stress reduction, smoking cessation, restful sleep, and regular socialization is key for living a high-quality life. Regular daily exercise helps reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease and type 2 diabetes, helps maintain a healthy body composition, reduces the risk of osteoporosis, and has a positive effect on mood. Something as simple as walking for 30 to 60 minutes per day can increase your lifespan up to 7 years. In contrast, for heavy smokers, so those who smoke 20 or more cigarettes per day, the risk of dying from lung cancer is 23 times higher in men and 13 times higher in women compared to non-smokers. Even with the occasional cigarette, you are inhaling dozens of toxins and known carcinogens that negatively impact your longevity. Sleep is an area that has thankfully been getting a lot more attention lately. Not only is sleep a time for you to rest, but it is also a time for your body to repair itself and for your nervous system to detoxify itself. Without adequate sleep, you may experience issues with memory, cognition, increased weight, increased blood pressure, and an increased risk of cardiovascular disease. Without adequate sleep, you may experience issues with memory and cognition, increased weight, blood pressure, an increased risk of cardiovascular disease, and a decreased libido, among other ill effects. Stress management is another area that has been getting a lot more attention, and as a result, we have a better understanding of what chronic stress can do for your body. Chronic stress can lead to an increased risk of cardiovascular disease, increased risk of mental health issues such as anxiety and depression, increased body weight, increased overall inflammation in the body, poor tissue healing, and an increased chance of hormonal disruptions. Lifestyle has a huge impact on overall health, and unless those aspects are addressed, there's no diet in the world that can remedy a poor lifestyle. The lifestyle portion is followed by what makes up 70 to 80% of the diet: vegetables, fruit, legumes, whole grains, and olive oil. These whole, unprocessed foods provide the body with nutrients such as vitamins, minerals, and phytochemicals that protect the body from free radicals, preventing DNA damage, decreasing inflammation, and delaying tumor growth. These foods make up most meals on most days. Next up are foods that are consumed several times a week: fish and seafood, poultry, eggs, and full-fat dairy products. Compared to the standard American diet, there's a smaller emphasis on the quantity of meats and eggs, but rather the quality of it. Free-range eggs and chicken, fresh wild-caught fish, and small amounts of flavorful, full-fat dairy products are preferred. At the top of the pyramid are foods that are considered to be treats and eaten occasionally, foods like red meat and rich desserts. Again, emphasis is placed on quality. So instead of grabbing cookies that you don't particularly like and eating it mindlessly, take the time to savor a small amount of a treat that you truly love. When the majority of your diet is full of fresh foods and vegetables, nutty whole grains, and omega-3 rich fish flavored with good quality olive oil and herbs, and you can actually sit down to eat at the table with loved ones rather than in front of a screen, the chances of overeating become low. This can be a real game changer for individuals who struggle with portion control and want to lose weight. In terms of heart health, there have been many studies demonstrating how olive oil can decrease the risk of heart disease. A study from Warwick University found that high blood pressure was decreased significantly in individuals who consumed olive oil compared to those who consumed sunflower oil. This may be due to the fact that olive oil can increase the bioavailability of nitric oxide, which allows the arteries to stay dilated. While the majority of research on the Mediterranean diet's impact on various markers of health is mostly in support of the diet, it is important to mention the PREDIMED study. The PREDIMED study was a landmark study of more than 7,000 Spaniards who were at high risk of heart disease. The participants were separated into 3 groups: the Mediterranean diet with olive oil, Mediterranean diet with nuts, and a control group who received a low-fat diet. After almost 5 years, it was found that the participants on the Mediterranean diet supplemented with olive oil were 30% less likely to die of heart disease and had improved blood pressure, blood sugar concentration, and weight. In fact, the researchers ended the study earlier than anticipated because they believed it was unethical to allow the other groups to continue with their diets when the one with olive oil seemed to be so beneficial. But in 2018, the authors retracted the original article due to flaws in the study design. Up to 15% of the participants were not randomly selected, amongst other design flaws. The authors republished the article with the exclusion of the non-randomized individuals and found that the results were pretty much the same. Individuals on a Mediterranean diet supplemented with olive oil were less likely to die of heart disease. However, since the study was not randomized properly, we cannot make the claim that the Mediterranean diet causes a reduction of cardiovascular disease and death, but rather, people following a Mediterranean diet are less likely to die from heart disease. Despite the mistakes made during the Pretty-Made study, the Mediterranean diet is still considered to be one of the most heart-healthy diets in the world. The diet's emphasis on plant-based foods, soluble and insoluble fiber, and healthy fats can protect against heart disease, metabolic syndrome, cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's disease, and Parkinson's disease, among many other chronic health conditions. More importantly, the emphasis on lifestyle and the enjoyment of life, in addition to the diet, puts the Mediterranean diet apart from other food plans and provides a more holistic way to increase health and longevity. Before transitioning into the Mediterranean diet, or any diet plan for that matter, it is important to have a conversation with your doctor about your health status and whether this way of eating is right for you. Health is unique, and depending on your specific needs, this may or may not be the right solution for you. Once you and your healthcare provider have decided that the Mediterranean diet is okay, there are several steps you can take to help ease yourself into this wonderful way of eating. Step 1. The first step is to actually take stock of what you already have. What are the foods that you enjoy? What are foods that you don't like? And really, the goal is to move towards more unprocessed foods. When we're talking about processed foods, what I'm talking about are foods that you'd find in the center of the grocery store, those that come in packages, and the ingredients lists tend to be quite lengthy. My rule of thumb is if the food has more than 5 ingredients, if it's really hard to pronounce those ingredients, they tend to be not that healthy for you. The smaller the ingredients list, the better off you are. Next, what you want to do is start to reduce the amount of red meat, fish, and poultry that you have in your meals, and really focus on getting more plants in for more of the meals that you eat. Trade in sweets for fruit for dessert. Step 2. Begin to add more vegetables and fruits into each individual meal. The different colors of the fruits and vegetables indicate the different types of nutrients and phytochemicals and antioxidants that those individual foods contain. So the more variety you have, the more protection you get. Aim to eat the rainbow. Opt for olive oil, herbs, and spices for flavor rather than butter and salt. Olive oil, again, has an anti-inflammatory effect. Herbs and spices, in addition to flavor, have a lot of constituents that have been shown to be incredibly healthy for you. And then drink water for lunch instead of soda. Water should be the main beverage that you reach for. Step 3. Aim for 80% of your meals to be plant-based, and instead of snacking on chips and candy, snack on nuts, seeds, and fruits. Step 4. Limit dairy to yogurt and cheese and small amounts of full-fat milk. Opt for brown rice and whole grains instead of white rice and refined white flour. The Mediterranean diet is different from other diets because it doesn't have strict calorie targets or portion sizes to follow, and rather is based on intuition. But sometimes when you are starting a new diet, it's helpful to have a bit of a guide. So what I like to do is use my hand as a guide. So when you're looking at a portion of vegetables, the size of your fist is 1 serving of vegetables. For protein, the size of your palm and the thickness of your palm is approximately 1 serving of protein. For any sort of grain such as rice and quinoa, a cupped palm is 1 serving. And for any sort of fat, so olive oil or cheese, the size of your thumb is 1 serving. The general rule of thumb is for women, use 1 hand as a portion size, and for men, you can have 2. So 2 fists, 2 palms, 2 cupped hands, and 2 thumbs. The easiest way to see that you're eating the proper amounts of each food is to actually look at your plate. So half of your plate should be made up of vegetables. These are raw, fresh, colorful vegetables of different varieties. Quarter of your plate should be a complex starch, such as quinoa, brown rice, sweet potato, and another quarter should be your protein, whether it's a grilled piece of fish or poultry, eggs, or tofu. Drizzle with olive oil for the extra punch of omega-3 fatty acids. Drink water and have fruit for dessert. For breakfast on most days, what you want to do is focus on fiber-rich meals, such as oatmeal and fruit, whole grain toast, or berries with full-fat yogurt. Several mornings a week, you can have eggs, and then a couple times a month, you can splurge on a bigger breakfast, so pancakes, waffles, bacon, eggs, whatever you like. For most days of the week, lunch should be salad with beans and legumes, seafood dressed with olive oil and balsamic vinegar, and you can snack on fruits and vegetables throughout the day. A couple times a week, you can add in some grilled chicken, or you can have sandwiches, ensuring that there are a lot of vegetables in it. And then a couple times a month, go for something that you're craving and that you really want to savor. So whether it's a rich pasta dish or burgers and fries, make that meal count and really enjoy yourself. For dinner on most nights, you want it to be pretty vegetable based. These vegetables can be roasted, steamed, or sauteed, flavored with different herbs. You can have a side of beans, lentils for protein, some brown rice or pasta, with the occasional glass of red wine. A couple times a week, you can have chicken or fish. And then a couple of times a month, you can have the heavier, rich meats, such as roast beef and lamb chops, always ensuring that there's some sort of whole grain and plenty of vegetables surrounding it. For more information about the Mediterranean diet and wellness tips in general, follow me on Instagram at Dr. Esha Singh. And until next time, have a great day, eat well, and be happy.